Good evening, everyone. This is Anthony, Wall Street Trader. It's 8:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday, September 13th, 2021. This isn't financial advice. The video is intended for educational purposes only. Click the subscribe and the bell if you want to be notified of when these videos come out. Better than that, click the thumbs up. Share the video with your friends, family, colleagues, etc., so that they can be notified about the greatness of Fetch.ai. That's the crypto we're covering on this video. Intraday updates are in the Twitter link below the video if you want to stay in touch with my entry and exit points as well as major market moves. So let's go into it. Fetch US dollar. We are on an uptrend. This is an uptrend. And we've been doing this since July. Even with all the craziness of Bitcoin lately, this thing has managed to stay its ground. And this is one of the tougher cryptos I've seen throughout this environment. Not only is the underlying thesis of Fetch compelling, but also just realize the technical aspects of this thing are really intact. Now, what's nice about this is that, we can continue down this trend, or should I say up this trend, until we've broken it. Right now, the trend is up, so you can only expect for this thing to continue on its merry way. Now, I'm not a big fan of these indicators. I've said it on a few. I disagree with these sometimes, but in this particular case, I agree with TradingView's indicator, which says strong buy. Enough of that. Let's move into the two underlying aspects of Fetch in US dollars that I look to make sure that I feel that the conviction on this chart action is true. So Fetch this is the Fetch US dollar pair. Let's look at one of the two that I look at to see which ones of these, to know that these things will drive Fetch US dollar. So Fetch Bitcoin is one of the two inputs into Fetch US dollar. So looking at this chart here, we are above this trend line. We have respected this trend line. And the last time we had this video, which was 3 days ago on September 10th, we said that this is going to now be a resistance line. Well, it proved itself out on the 11th, on September 11th, and then onward, continuing to serve as a support line, and a strong one at that it is. This is great news. This means that we now have a trend on the way up because this is now support, no longer resistance. Now let's look over at the Bitcoin US dollar pair. This is another input into Fetch US dollar, and yes, Bitcoin is a benchmark still. Even though dominance is shrinking, it is still a crypto that a lot of the altcoin markets continue to follow. Now, we are still in this range, and we've talked about this range in the last video as well. We expected this thing to be range bound and trade sideways. Why? Well, because we already started to see a very similar pattern coming back here. If we go back in time, back in May, when we saw the first Bitcoin fall out this year, we saw this back and forth. It was gyrating between 42,000 and all the way down to 29,000 and change. Well, this is the same exact, it looks almost identical in terms of price action, except it's a miniature version of what we saw back here. So I don't think that the duration of this is going to be long because of the size of this thing. It's smaller in height in terms of amplitude. So I expect it will continue on for probably a couple more days, and then we should see something happen. What will happen? I don't really know, but if it follows the same pattern that this certainly kind of went up. So I would expect the same concept here, and I would expect it to go up. In fact, my end of year prediction is still at 80,000 between now and the end of the year. I think we're going to get there, folks. I know it sounds crazy, but that's just, I am a little crazy, but I think that this has been thought out. We have multiple times touched this green line and been around it long enough for it to be serving almost like a center of gravity. So I continue to expect that we will wind up rising above, back on that green line. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm just pointing it out. All right, Bitcoin dominance pair. This thing is definitely on a tear down. And that's good for you if you are an altcoin holder. Why is that? Because Bitcoin going up or sideways means that you will see the same with altcoin sideways and or up, but even more so. So generally that means that altcoins will do better than Bitcoin. So you kind of like, you're okay if Bitcoin kind of goes sideways for now, because we'll do better than that. And what's better than sideways? I would say slightly up. So anyway, that's just kind of like how you have to look at this stuff. So Fetch US dollar, very bullish here. We're still on the uptrend. Nothing has changed so far, even with all of the insanity going on with Bitcoin in this 10% gyrations. Looking at Fetch Bitcoin here, the trend line that we had broken in earnest, and I mean in earnest, now almost a week in the making. We are still on an uptrend here. Now, Bitcoin itself, still gyrating. Nothing's changed since the last video 3 days ago. And I don't anticipate for the next 2 to 3 days for anything to happen here either. But that's just my view. Anyway, that's pretty much all I've got on Fetch. Everyone have a good night. Take it easy.